So what happened was this. What happened was Jimmy Dore. Shout out to Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore did one of the most important interviews, not in just his career, but also just for our time right now, right? Like, this is the most important conversation we could have had with who he had it with. And the entire video in conversation was overshadowed by Puff Daddy, or P. Diddy as you know him, in the trial. Now, is this by accident? It could have been by a happenstance, circumstance, whatever. But it is interesting that the conversation would take place now, and all of a sudden, and the stuff that came out in Diddy's case, I'm not going to act like it wasn't something that a human being would be like, yo, that's kind of crazy. We got to talk about that for a second, right? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on over there. But what really pissed me off is the fact that we got to talk about this. And we got to talk about who's talking about it. So, actually, if you see my title there, it says, what does it say? Something about Catherine Austin Fitts being an American hero because she exposes the financial system, right? But I should have put really part one, because this is I can't do this in one part, right? I got to do this in 4 parts minimum. So that's what we're going to do, man. That's what we're going to talk about. Man, there's so much to talk about. There's not just trillions it's not about just trillions that went missing. There's a whole system in place that really plays the American citizen for a fool, right? There's a whole system, and she breaks that down and articulates it in a way that we can understand. And this is why I found it was very important for us to go over this today. Now, do some house cleaning real quick. Not only do I want to tell who she is, we're going to talk about that in a second. I have a new book out. It is available on Kindle as well as Audible. If you have Audible, if you like to listen to your books, then this book is called Rockefeller Medicine Men, Wholesale Philanthropy, Section 1. It's called Section 1 because I'm coming with like 2 more sections, right? Because we have to break this down. I don't want things to get lost, right? So the first Section 1, I'm just dealing with how he used philanthropy to reshape healthcare system, to reshape education in America. It's definitely worth reading, all right? So you can go and check that out. Also, do remember to download Beyond You TV on your mobile devices, Android and iPhone. And we got different documentaries over there. Understanding the human body, for instance, the human body, the original supercomputer. Please check this out over there, right? There's a ton of different videos you can catch over there. Now, I want to get right into this because I'm running behind so bad, and I got things to do. Not that I'm going to rush your the quality of the video that I'm going to give you, but like I said, we got 4 parts to do, and they all can't be 5 hours long. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to make this an hour long. Shout out to Santiago's in the building. I'm trying to make this an hour long and then come with the next 3 parts, right? So, who am I talking about today? Let's just get an idea before we even get into the video with her and Jimmy Dore and break that video down half an hour by half an hour. You understand? Let's just talk about who she is, because she could be a quack for all we know, right? So it says her professional. It says something about Solari Inc. She worked there. Hold on, what's going on here? Oh, okay, cool. This is in Tennessee. She's the president of Solari. 1998 date, publisher. Okay, we'll get into Solari later. Solari Investment Screens. Okay. Hamilton Securities Group, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, New York. President, 1991 to 1998. Responsible for founding and building this broker-dealer investment bank with special emphasis on financial software technology and advanced decision science. Oh boy, we're going to actually get into that today. Hold up. Let me, don't know why I go nowhere. Just wait right there. Oh, that was unnecessary. I didn't need that to fall. I did not ask my wife to freaking turn down the air. What she did. My wife turned down the air and it got kind of hot in here. All right. Let's keep going. I just want you to know that we're not talking to a quack, right? And I'm going to talk about financial software, technology, advanced decision. I'm going to talk about financial software and technology in a second. You guys say you've been waiting for the content. I got the content. You understand? So if we nerd out, we nerd out. That's what we do. It will get nerdy. But I don't see no other way if we are lacking the knowledge. Like at some point we got to get serious and just nerd out and get an understanding of the knowledge. First get the knowledge, then get an understanding of the knowledge. So let's just get busy. Let's get back to who she is. It says here, transactions for government and private clients totaled 12 billion of auctions and private placements. Portfolio strategy for the Federal Housing Administration related to 400 billion of mortgage insurance, related securities and real estate assets and liabilities. Okay, so she just wants you to know her capabilities, her credentials, her experience, her expertise. She has also apparently worked for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I think I remember her when she did this. No, I couldn't have. This was 1989 to 1990. I'm bugging. She was Assistant Secretary for Housing Federal Housing Commissioner. 1989 to 1990, responsible for the operations of the Federal Housing Administration. I bet she's seen a lot there, including annual originations of 50 to 100 billion of mortgage insurance. Woo, Jesus Christ. Where'd she go to school? She went to school in Pennsylvania at the Wharton School. She got an MBA. Shout out to that. I wanted an MBA, but I decided to go with another degree. The University of Pennsylvania, okay, 1974. She went to Yale in China. Wait, what? Is this some type of remote program? It says Yale in China Language Institute. Well, anyway, she speaks Chinese. She speaks Mandarin. She got an associate's degree from Bennett College. She did go to Harvard for summer school and Stanford, and she took a few courses at MIT too. So she apparently is a brainiac. She's no idiot, I can tell you that. She's been a board of trustees on a few school boards. and a bank, New York City Board of Education in 87 to 89. Okay. So, Rotary Club, Board of Directors of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. So her credentials are here. And if you want to see this, this is DylanReedandCo.com. All right, just in case. I think sources are very important. All right, we're going to get to that video in a second. Just stick with me. Before we get to the video, I want you guys, it's imperative that we understand a few things. So let's just run through this real quick. I made a slide. It's called Unseen Controls, How Global Finance is Engineered, from Dodd-Frank's Rollbacks to Swift's Global Grip. Now, it is very important that we understand Dodd-Frank, the rollback of Dodd-Frank, and what Swift is. But before I get started, I don't think I would really be genuine if I did not express the fact that I think I was wrong. Now, I have a subscriber. His name is Angelo, right? And Angelo has been trying to tell me some things, but I wasn't necessarily listening to Angelo. I was hearing Angelo. I wasn't listening to Angelo. And I got some new information by learning from people like Catherine Austin Fitz. And I'm beginning to see what Angelo is saying about Elon Musk, right? And all of these things play a part. In 2018, we're going to take a look at this anyway. 2018, all right, let's start here. President Trump pulled back what was put in place to protect. It was allegedly there to protect the people, so that we didn't have another 2008, right? Like, what happened in 2008 that even allowed that even allowed these subprime mortgages to take place? People that were borrowing money that had no business borrowing money. Like, I mean, we was all there. Well, some of us was there in 2008. I don't know who would be watching this video in the future where you're a young person and you just had no idea what happened, but it was crazy. To summarize it in layman terms, people were buying houses with absolutely no credentials, qualifications, no reflection that they should be purchasing the house or the house that they're buying, right? And I've seen it firsthand. People were buying not only houses that just houses, but houses they couldn't afford, and they were being loaned the money to do so. So when this kept happening and people kept on defaulting on their loans, at the end of the day, people were like, yo, how did this even happen in the first place? And there was something put in place called the Dodd-Frank Act, which was supposed to be a safeguard so that it didn't happen again, right? Because it was really crazy. People lost pensions, 401k funds. The common man always takes the hit, and the elites they got bailed out. You know, they got given what we call golden parachutes, right? Which was like $1 million packages to go sail off into the sunset and retire after it all happened. So it was really disrespectful. Some people did try to protest, but then that turned into some like a hippie fest down on Wall Street because people were going down there, and instead of fighting the power, it started out as fight the power, and it just ended up as like a smoke dizzle weed fest, like the homeless stuff. It got crazy. Like they were like, we're gonna camp out, and I think it was good intentions. Like people were like, nah, we're just gonna stay here and camp out, but nobody was really ready for bloodshed. They was just making a statement, so it just filthied up the streets a little bit until New York got tired of it and kicked them out of there. It was like, all right, you vagabonds, get out of here, get back to work. It got crazy. So nothing really happened, right? And then we just moved on. But what they put in place, they're like, all right, cool. We're going to put this thing called the Dodd-Frank Act in place so, like, this doesn't happen again, right? And it was originally for banks that were, I think, doing $50 billion and under, something like that, right? And they had their stress tests and their capital requirements, and it was a safeguard. But in 2018, for whatever reason, Donald Trump came in and he rolled that back, right? So it's called the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. Yin Zin Yang, thanks for checking in, bro. Appreciate you. So what he did was he raised the oversight threshold, right, from the banks that were dealing with 50 billion or less to like 250 billion and more. So if you didn't if your bank doesn't deal with 250 billion dollars, then this basically the Dodd-Frank didn't apply to you, right? It would only apply to, so it gave those smaller banks free reign again. I just want us to recognize the acronym SIFI. Systematically important financial institution. Systematically important financial institution. Required higher scrutiny, stress testing, living wills. Meant to prevent another Lehman Brothers situation. All right. Well, they got rid of that anyway. They removed it for the mid-sized banks. So the mid-sized banks are back out here being able to do what they want to do. So I wanted you to know about that, right? So that Consumer Protection Act, the Dodd-Frank, was removed. So now you know about Dodd-Frank if you want to go look it up more. And you know it was removed. You know why it was put in place, and you know it was removed. So you're already aware of something already in this, 18 minutes, which is good because I don't want to waste your time. Now, we're going to move on to something else that I want you to be aware of, something called SWIFT, right? What is SWIFT? Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. So this is kind of like, and I'm going to explain it the best way I can. I'm pretty sure I wrote it in here somewhere that is a little bit more articulate. But I want to try to explain it to my layman people, right? Just regular folk that just want, what the hell is this, Jamel? It was a group of groups, like 10 different banks, groups. Actually, it was wasn't it 239? I think it was 239 banks, 15 countries. 239 banks, 15 countries that said this is going to be a committee, a centralized, and not really a committee. It's just a centralized piece within economics and trade that sends information between the banks, right? So if you want to do business if France wants to do business with Poland, right, then it wants to send money, it has to use Swift, and Swift is going to say, yeah, this person is good with us, right? We've all agreed to use this, and this person here is good. Or this country here is good. Along with other information. I'm giving you the main reason that they created it, right? So it was created in 1973. It was headquartered in Belgium. Connects over 11,000 financial institutions in 200 countries. Sends secure financial messages. It doesn't send the money. It sends the messages. And what do you think the messages is? Well, we're going to get to that in a second. Who founded Swift? Like I said, 239 banks from 15 countries. Who do you think founded Swift? Let's see down here. We got J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Bank of America, and the Rothschilds, right? So, who did you expect for me to say? We'll get more into that later because there's a whole lot I'm going to break down after these 4 videos that I do. We're not done. This is only the beginning of the beginning. I'm just doing these 4 videos to expose you to a conversation that we should be having instead of having a conversation about what's not trafficking with Diddy, right? Whatever's going on with Diddy, it's not trafficking. It's not sex trafficking. It's not sex trafficking, right? No matter how emotional. I just learned not to have the conversation with too many people that's close to me, like my wife, right? She's upset because she feels that Cassie needs some type of vindication. Vindication for what? Getting beat up? Call the cops. That's our Justice Department. Call the cops, right? And charge him with battery. But don't charge him with sex trafficking if he wasn't sex trafficking. Just really simple. So whatever's going on with Diddy that they want us to pay attention to, it's not sex trafficking. They know what sex trafficking is. I assure you, they know what real sex trafficking is. They know. But we'll get into that later. So all of this conversation about Diddy, Cassie, particularly black people, I want you to come to the front of the classroom. Poor whites, I would have a section for you in the front of the classroom. Misguided Jews, please make room for them in the second row. And any queers in the house that's selling any type of trinkets or perfumey gidgy gadgets or whatever, I would ask you to stop trying to peddle your goods here and have a seat, because absolutely nobody ever cared about a group of queers. Nobody. Individually, we love you because you're probably friends and families of ours, but a group of queers, no one cared about. I assure you all of this. So I would have you to sit down so you understand how you're being used in this whole scheme of things as well. Okay? Now, we would later find out that Swift would be used as a worldwide political weapon. We would find this out. And maybe that's why it was created in the first place, right? So what we're talking about is coming down the road with the new digital system that's going to be able to control everything that we do, right? They already had been using some form of control in the world. They're just kind of like narrowing it down to get more control and granularize it down to the actual individual. It's going to get very dangerous. But we seen this with Russia, right? When America decided, oh, we're going to punish you, Russia. We're going to throw sanctions on you. Well, did you know what those sanctions how those sanctions took place? Like, you know that they said sanction, but did you know, like, the particulars? Like, how they were going to use it? They was going to use something called, what I'm explaining to you now, SWIFT. So that now when Russia tries to go and trade with another country, SWIFT is going to say, it's going to send a message and say, nah, Russia's no good with us. We're not doing business with Russia. Because global financial trade was based off the dollar. Global financial trade was based off the dollar. So what happened was Russia was forced to say, oh, word, y'all don't want to do business with me? Okay, we have resources, and you're gonna need my resources. So dig this. I'm no longer trading in a dollar. How about that? Now if you want whatever I got over here, you'll pay me in the rupees, right? Or whatever Russia uses. I think they use a version of rupees. But nonetheless, you'll pay me in the Russian currency. And so whatever America had planned for Russia backfired. Because what do you think that did? They have too many commodities that are needed. So what do you think that did? That pushed Russia through the roof. People still needed whatever they needed from Russia, whether it was oil or minerals or whatever it was. They still needed what they needed, and they still paid for it. But this time, instead of the inflated dollar, they paid for it in Russian currency, which made Russia stronger, not weaker. But yes, this is why I think SWIFT was invented and created to use as a weapon. However, like I just was saying, SWIFT is no longer untouchable. Nations that oppose Western financial dominance are building their own pipes to move money. The fragmentation of global finance is real, and SWIFT dominance is being eroded. We see this with CIPS, China's cross-border interbank payment system. We see this with Russia's SPFS, system for transfer of financial messages. We see this with BRICS. And it's starting to unfold through the more conversations that we have about blockchain, right? So and let's see, half an hour, 28 minutes. 28 minutes so far, we are cooking. We learned a lot so far. We learned about Dodd-Frank. We learned about the rollback of Dodd-Frank. We learned about SWIFT, all in 28 minutes. And we ran through the resume of Catherine Austin Fitts. Now, I would like to do a little bit of house cleaning right now and say what's up to the original man in the building. 914, what's up? Peace to the gods and earth. He says back at it, back with another informative video. Yeah, we played around in the mud for a little bit this week, but now it's time to get back to serious business and do what we do as a Poker Face Society. So shout out to the original man. Shout out to the whole 914, obviously Mount Vernon, New York, New Rochelle, Pelham, Yonkers, Tarrytown, White Plains, is Newburgh 914? Newburgh is actually not 914. And that's not who I was thinking about anyway. I was thinking about right over the bridge, New City, the Tappan Zee Bridge, Peekskill, New York, Elmsford, New York, Valhalla, Scarsdale, Hartsdale, Tuckahoe, Westchester, New York. Big 9. You understand me? Shout out to Aldo 260 is in the building. You understand? I think Aldo is from the Bronx. Shout out to the Bronx. The entire Bronx. Shout out to Uncle Andy is in the building. Who knows where Uncle Andy is from? He's from where he's from. You understand? All right, let's get into this, man. I can't wait to get into this, man. Because this is the video that they've been trying to, I don't know if they've been trying to suppress it, but they haven't been talking about it. So let's go.
And they're all very convenient until they snap together. And then
Hold on. Let's get the levels right. That's number one. Let's get the levels right in this bad boy.
And they're all very convenient until they snap together. And then you're in a digital concentration camp. And then it's...
Wait, Uncle Andy is from Atlanta? What? And Aldo is from Harlem. I've been spending a lot of time in Harlem. Shout out to Harlem. Shout out to Michelle Smalls, the Harlem Queen. I'm trying to do some business with Michelle Smalls. Shout out to the Harlem Queen. Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta, but that's a whole nother story. Oh, Andy, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. I want the people in the replay, because we ain't got a long time, because I'm breaking this up into quarters. Yeah, we're gonna get all the money out of this package. We're gonna break the work down.
And they're all very convenient until they snap together, and then you're in a digital concentration camp, and then it stops being convenient and it starts being slavery.
We have a very special guest with us. Catherine Austin Fitts is here. She's an American investment banker who served as managing director of Dillon Read and Company and as the United States Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the George H.W. Bush administration. That's the first George Bush. I remember that George W. Bush. A lot of people say Israel got him pushed out. She co-authored a report in 2017 alleging that $21 trillion in unauthorized spending by the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development over a 17-year period. Now, of course, that's all crazy talk. That didn't happen. She's making it up. The government takes good care, is a good steward of your money, and they would never do something that is just... Anyway, welcome to the show, Catherine Austin Fitts.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be on.
So before we get into... I'm going to bury the lead, and we're not going to talk about that right away. I wanted to, because this just broke today, and I wanted to just get your opinion since you worked in the George Herbert Walker Bush administration, and of course everybody's following what's happening.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't really care about Trump allegedly cutting ties with Netanyahu, because he's not cutting ties with Netanyahu. This is all just nonsense talk. This is the type of talk. It's the same thing as when they said they killed Osama bin Laden. They didn't kill Osama bin Laden. I don't care what type of movies they make. I don't care what they tell you, right? I don't care. Now, this is alleged, of course. This is my conspiracy theory. Let me announce that this is my conspiracy theory, because they claim that they killed Osama bin Laden. I'm saying, why would you kill Osama bin Laden in private, right? When you just showed Muammar Gaddafi getting stabbed up to death in the streets. Why wouldn't you show that? Why wouldn't you put the footage out there? You didn't even show his body. You just said, all right, we threw his body over the water. Uncle Andy, you know what I'm gonna say, right? They want me to believe Omar was a student because Sosa said so, bro. No. Actually, the Bin Laden family had a great relationship with the United States for a long time. And what I think He's somewhere with plastic surgery, living his best life. It's obvious, right? So, whatever they trying to sell us here with the whole, oh, Trump is not talking to Netanyahu and he's throwing a cold shoulder, I'm not buying none of that. So I'm going to try to just bump it up a few minutes to see if we could just skip all of that.
Where he stopped bombing Yemen if Yemen doesn't bomb our ships. And even at the Rescue the Republic event that I was at, I met a lot of MAGA. They are not, the ones I know, the ones who watch this show and come see me, they are not on board with his stance with Israel at all.
Right. And so what I want is I want a sovereign country. And I want a sovereign country that enforces the Constitution. And you can't be a sovereign country if a significant number of your cabinet or your Congress are dual citizen passport, have dual citizenship. And
I think that's crazy. The fact that so many politicians have dual citizenship with the United States and Israel, I mean, at this point, it's looking way past a little skeptical. It's not like a little skeptical at this point. It's kind of like, yo, bro, this doesn't make sense. We're giving them way too much money for you to even be able to articulately explain why we're giving them so much money. So if we're giving them that much money for their military, then at some point they have to use that military. We can't just keep giving them $900 billion for the military and they don't got no enemies. So now they have to use that, but you're not even using $900 billion worth of military power because your enemy is not that strong. You against your enemies have sticks and stones, bro. And you out here with the most advanced Israel has some of the most advanced technology in the world, correct? In the world. And look who your enemy is. So it's like a 12th grader getting his family all riled up. He's outside drunk on the porch cussing. His mother comes out to find out what's going on. He explains the situation. This kid he won't stop effing with me. And enough is enough. All she heard was somebody's bothering her baby. He didn't give any more information. She went back in the house, called the big brother, the cousins, everybody, and told the father, get down there and figure out what's going on. They all hop in the pickup truck. When they get down to the playground, it's a 3rd grader. But they don't come to their senses and be like, yo, this is a 3rd grader, bro. They pound the 3rd grader out like, yo, keep your filthy paws off my brother. None of it makes sense.
Have mixed loyalties or sign, what a lot of congressmen tell us is they have to sign pledges to AIPAC. So
I don't know how that does not compromise the United States if we have a number of cabinet members, a number of senators, a number of congressmen and women who have dual citizenship with Israel, and they've taken an oath to Israel. We're giving money to Israel. Like, how does that not compromise what we call America if the American government, and I'm going to answer all of these things for you after we finish these 4 parts, right? I just want you to understand I want you to hear Catherine. Because she did the work. So now these 4 parts, we're going to listen, but then we're going to go into her work. And when you go into her work, you're like, Damn. We've been bamboozled as the American people. And that's why they put a hit on her life. That's why they threatened to take her life and her family's life. Let's go.
I think we have a serious multiple personality disorder in the government, and I want to see that aired and changed. And the theater and the drama, I don't know what's happening between Trump and Netanyahu. It wouldn't surprise me if Trump was irritated that Netanyahu is doing many different things to make Trump look like a fool. Certainly that would irritate me if I was the president, but as far as I'm concerned, this is just theater if you're not going to change the fundamental structural problem.
Do you have a guess on how a guy like Waltz, who's an obvious Israeli mole, ends up inside Trump's campaign? I mean, cabinet.
Waltz was not someone I ever followed or know, so I don't know how he ended up there, but I think you have a lot of major donors and people in and around Trump and who've been active in the campaign who would have recommended or vetted him. And, and so there's a process by which he gets recommended. And then you go in and of course, what happens is immediately you're tested. So Waltz, I don't have a good feel for.
So do you think Trump's subservience to Israel is based just because of the donors? Because of, the widow Adelson gave him $100 million and all the ape. Is it that, or is it
So I want to slow the conversation down. And just in case, you didn't pick up what Jimmy Dore just said, there's a woman, Adelson, who happens to be Jewish, and she gave, and I say happen because I don't want to mix all Jews up with the Zionists, right? And those Jews who just are using their status to their benefit, right? However, her husband died. I think he had a bunch of casinos. He died. She has a bunch of money. She's a billionaire. She gave $100 million to Trump. He accepted the money. I don't think he should have accepted the money or the money from AIPAC, because what happens is that money's not for free, bro. They want something in return. What do they want in return? That's the thing, right? But as a president, you can't be in the pocket of people who clearly don't have the United States of America's best interests. Israel's Israel. We may have created Israel. We did. But it's still Israel. America is America. From day one of not only us just creating Israel, but before that, Israel did not have America's best interests. So I don't know why we helped them create that state, but from the moment we went to them in 1910 and asked for Paul Wahlberg's help with redesigning our economic system, they did not have our best interests. They had their best interests, and that is evident to this day.
Afraid of AIPAC, losing the Congress, because if he can't do anything, if the Congress won't go along with them, or he can't do a lot of things, put it that way. And so is he afraid that AIPAC will turn the Congress against him? Just like, let me just stop it there.
Okay, so I think Trump, if you're the president, you're subject to tremendous, you're in a box. And the box is subject to tremendous financial dependencies on the central bankers and a whole series of private players. And I'd love to tell you some stories to help you understand. But you're in that box, and you don't have complete control. The last president who thought he had control was John Kennedy, and we see what happened there. So you're trying to operate within a box, and you're in the middle, if you're Trump, of having to change fundamentally the model. So at the beginning of the administration, Secretary Rubio said, we tried to be a unipolar model, and now we're going to have to shift to a multipolar model. So So you are forced by economics to change the fundamental nature of the dollar system. At the same time, you are subject to all sorts of private interests and donors, particularly the central bankers who want you to do certain things. So you don't have complete latitude to do whatever you want.
I mean, I think I don't need to summarize what she just said. She said a whole bunch of words, right? But for my people that is struggling a little bit because she's saying a whole bunch of words, it came at the end of what she just said. He does not have control. This is what I've been telling you. Trump doesn't really have no president has control. Right? Not at this point. Maybe at one point, but at this point, nah. Not when they start taking the money from the donors that give them money to run for office and all this other stuff. Even after that, right? Some of these corporations have way more money than at their disposal. They have, let's just say this, they have way too much money not to be considered a legit threat, right? This is why I don't believe that the assassination attempt was real. I think it was just a ruse to get us to make sure that we voted for Trump, because it was like, all right, if we haven't done, I don't know what else we could do to make you vote for this guy, right? We tried to turn your kids into transgender queers, right? Like, we just did everything. We tried to poison you. What else can we do to make you vote for this guy? You gotta vote for him to make it seem like this is what you wanted, right? Even though they're pulling the strings like Geppetto the entire way, but they want your involvement to make it seem so they can always say that, well, you voted for him.
And the reality is the dollar system has traditionally depended on the Israeli networks for a whole lot of different operations, particularly in the Middle East. So you don't want to just throw them overboard if you're dependent on them for all sorts of other things. So I don't think it's just the major donors. I think he's also a prisoner of the model, and I think the Israelis are dangerous. I think if I know people who are very concerned if they just do what they want in any of these positions, they or someone in their family can end up dead. So I'll give you an example. I have an online book called Dylan Reed and the Aristocracy of Stock Profits. I've tried to
stop. Now, she said that kind of fast. It's okay, because I'm here to help you, Miss Catherine. Don't worry, baby. I got you. You're doing God's work. What she just said was she has an online book called Dylan Reed and Company in the Aristocracy of Stock Profits. If you want to check out the book she's talking about, I gave you this website days ago. But now you're understanding why I gave it to you days ago. Now you're understanding why I gave you her resume. Because when she starts to break down what's going on and what they didn't want out, she's not a quack that's been sitting in the trailer park for years, just listening to David Icke and Dr. Malachi York videos.
to publish it in hard copy 3 times. The third time I tried, each time I ran into terrible difficulties. The third time I tried, I got a series of very subtle messages, and my interpretation of them was, if you publish this in hard copy, we will kill someone in your family. And so I backed off, and I've never, it's available online, it's not suppressed, but I've never published it in a hard copy. And I'm just waiting till all the people who might, give that order and have the ability to give that order pass on, and then I'll.
So now you can kind of see why I put her on my wall of American heroes. Again, another person life in jeopardy for wanting to tell the American people the truth. Where do we stop, man? Where do we start? Where do we stop and when do we start? When do we really start to fight back? When it's too late? Luigi Mangione got out here, put his life on the line. He's locked up. Did he go too far? Who knows? Who knows? Something has to happen. And if the people that we put in place, like the FBI and the Criminal Justice Department, is not going to do anything about the criminals that are within the system, I don't know what they expect, and I don't know what they expect for people to say behind the microphone, right? So you can't come to someone that's behind on a podcast and say, you know, what you said was really reckless and negligent because you might get copycats and start talking all of this superior nonsense when the fact is, bro, if we all see it and you are supposed to be the experts, then why don't you see it? And why aren't you doing anything about it? Like, how long are people just supposed to sit here and you don't want people to do anything and you don't want people to say anything? Well, that's dangerous ground. Come on, we got 9 minutes left. Let's make it work.
I'll publish it in hard copy. But it's dangerous.
What is it? What is it about that book that's so threatening?
Well, when I tried to do it the third time, I didn't think it was that threatening. But I think there was a series of people who didn't want their dirty laundry looked at, and they just thought hard copy would bring more attention to it. It's a book about. It's basically designed as a case study for the equivalent of a business school class to help you understand the intersection between narcotics trafficking and illegal monies in Wall Street and Washington. And the reality, Jimmy, is our economy is deeply dependent on narcotics trafficking and money laundering. We're the global leader in money laundering. And, and we've been very insistent that we're, our business model is something other than organized crime and war, but it's not. We're deeply financially dependent on organized crime and war. And so
I've been saying this since a little kid, bro. I've been saying this I've been figured this out, right? Now you probably like, yo, that's cap. You ain't been saying this. Yes, I have. I used to call it unwinding. Well, once the Matrix came out, but even before the Matrix, I was trying to figure out why is the world like it is, right? And then I realized, our government is heavily heavily reliant on the criminal system. This is why I get so upset with other black men that look like me that feel like they have to put on some type of, like, everything has to be so street when we know most of that is going to lead us to where? Jail. And then jail is not a badge of honor, right? It's not like all of these are things that we make up to make ourselves feel better, when reality it's a slave system that's sitting there. It's like, okay, and it's almost sometimes it used to take nothing to really get in that joint, right? You end up there for a speeding ticket and end up slicing somebody while you in there. Now you got 5 more years. That part.
It's designed to show you how that machinery works and how they proceed to use government credit and money to kind of engineer the system and make lots of things look economic. Turn lots of people into billionaire with government money and make it look like they're making money in the private market when it's really rigged from either the central bank or government.
Money laundering. This is what I've also said, right? Everything is subsidized. Things that you wouldn't even consider as subsidized. There's all type of shell companies that are subsidized. Did I not bring up RCA to you guys? RCA? Did we not learn when we went over the RCA story that it was the idea of RCA came from the United States government? They just happened to go through General Electrics for the actual playing out of the conception of the idea. But the whole time they were going to quarterback and have control of the FCC, but they needed a middleman there. The same thing they do with freaking the Federal Reserve. And then you name it federal, and then you got everyone thinking it's federal, and it's not. But she's going to break all of that down. I don't want to, but these are things I've been telling you.
Wow, there's so many things that opens up that I want to talk about. Would one of those people be Elon Musk?
So if we knew in the 90s that we had to change the economic model. And what happened, I believe, is we had a financial coup, and that relates to the 21 trillion that's gone missing. And I think it's more than that, but they've basically taken the financial disclosure of the government dark. And I think there were many of us who wanted to do a model that would protect freedom and protect the current sort of way of government in the United States. And a decision was made to sort of instead pull the money out and build what I call a control model. And if you look at what Elon Musk is doing in his businesses, he's basically, that portfolio of companies is building the control model and making it look fashionable. So you're basically building the infrastructure you need to go to complete control, where if you, Jimmy Dore, say something that I don't like, I can turn off your bank account. Mm-hmm. And I can literally track you with AI and software, and have software butts on you, like 24/7 surveillance teams that track you and make sure you behave. And if you don't behave, we can cut your credit, or we can cut your money, or literally turn it off.
So
I've been telling y'all this. This is the real yo. You understand? They can control what comes up in your algorithm. They can control what comes up in your feed, and what you'll see more of and what you'll see less of, and what you'll get an alert for and what you don't. People have been telling me, yo, I don't even get your alerts no more. No, because I'm out here talking something different, beloved. I'm tactfully and strategically doing videos that it's like a scavenger hunt, my videos. But you watch one, you may not get the connection to number 9, but like, oh snap, he said that, right? And then you're gonna hear other people talk about it. Oh snap, I know about it because I seen him with Saladin. Saladin was telling me about the dude Edward Bernays. That was Sigmund Freud's nephew. I learned that over there. So you're gonna make the connections sooner or later. And I was really doing it like that to avoid YouTube from but at this point, right, I couldn't control myself, because the people that hide within Judaism, they felt safe because they're like, well, they can't talk about me because you can't talk about the Jews. Me being who I am, I'm like, fuck that, bro. I could talk about whoever and whatever. So therefore, right away, I put the bullseye on my head, forehead, back, everywhere. Like, yo, him, we not giving him no subscribers. And that's fine, right? So with the 12 subscribers I got, I'm just going to continue to give the knowledge. That's it. But all of these things I've been telling you. Now, this is coming from a financial expert. I don't tell you these things to scare you. I'm telling you what they really got in store. When we go digital, the dollar will be programmable. And at that point, right, if they don't like what you're doing, saying, where are you? It's going to get tricky for a lot of people, Jack. That is my 1 hour. That is my 1 hour. Now, Uncle Andy's like, yo, only 9 minutes. I appreciate that. But what we got to do is start to shut it. Because there's so many parts, I can't make them like 2 hours long. Because I'm not sure if people watch it. So what I'm going to do the next video is I'm not going to come in with a whole lot of rhetoric. And I may do some minor house cleaning, but very minimal. And we will try to bust out these videos. It may take more than 9. I mean, more than 4. But either way, I'm going to create a whole series just for Catherine Austin Fitts, the American hero. Right? So I thank everyone for tapping in with your boy today. Do hit the like button. If this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button. Hit the alert for notifications so that you know when someone like myself that's coming on with real topics, that's not trying to be in the algorithm so that I can get a YouTube check. I'm not looking forward to no YouTube check. I'm looking forward for my people getting the knowledge so we could get the liberation that we need. You understand? And that's going to be that. And episode 2 might be on a video upload. Don't be surprised. My name is Jamel Saladin. This is the Poker Face Society. Shout out to all the Poker Face Society members. Shout out to everyone who does donate to my Cash App for the servers over at Beyond UTV. We got a lot of things. We got new staff coming on this week, so we got a lot of things cooking over at Beyond UTV. So thank you for everyone that supports, right? Thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Uncle Andy. Thank you, everybody that sends money in. Thank you so much. All right.